The whole reason for using a mockup is to personalize the message, change the default message, and add whatever it is you want. So that is always inside a smart object. Well, it is 99% of the time, it's inside a smart object. When you double click, not on the layer name because that changes the layer name, when you double click on the layer icon, it opens the smart object, and that smart object may have been created from another Photoshop file or an Illustrator file. Depending upon where the smart object came from, that program is going to open it. In this case, it's a Photoshop file. And in this case, quite unusually, there's not a text layer here. What's going on with that? This is not editable text. Typically, there's text here. So how do you get rid of this in the middle of our background? Well, there's a lot of different ways, but I haven't shown you the marquee tool, and we're going to just make a selection around that type. And here, let me make this larger so you can see what's going on. And I just selected the pixels around it. I left a little extra. Didn't select a huge area, just a little extra around it. And then I'm going to do something, and I'm just going to do it quickly so you can see what's going on. And I'll talk you back through this. And I hit Command D, and wow, that's pretty good, huh? This does not always work. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo, Command Z again, and then Command D to deselect. Now, once again, I've got the rectangular marquee. If you've got a different one here, change it to the rectangular one. And then we're just going to make a selection, getting a few extra pixels, a little bit extra all the way around. And then, and yes, we can use the healing brush. We can use different things, different techniques to do this, but under Edit, Fill, and the shortcut says Shift F5. Forget that. Shift Delete, because look at, see foreground and background? Option Delete fills with my foreground. Command Delete fills with my background. I'm going to hit Command Z a couple times to get rid of that. Shift Delete brings up the Fill dialog box. Those three shortcuts you want to learn, because you're going to be filling things all year long, and going up to this menu isn't going to be the most effective way to do it. So in this, typically it says foreground color, I think. I don't know. It could be pattern, history, black. You see all these choices. We use 50% gray if you've done that mission for that dodge and burn layer. But content aware, when this first came out, it was, it's okay. It's kind of magical at times. Now it's just gotten more and more magical. I mean, Command D to deselect. It's under Select, Deselect, Command D. Another shortcut worth learning. Hey, not bad. Now this is ready for us to add our text, but also to maybe liven this up a little bit. But for now, for getting this ready to modify, we've done our steps. Normally, there's a text layer. You just double click on and edit the text. Or there's a graphic there that you replace or reposition or whatever. There's typically a number of layers here. Just because the smart object didn't start with a number of layers doesn't mean we can't make a bunch of layers in this file. And when we save it and close it, that smart object will have our extra layers in it. So I want to add text. I'm going to hit T to get the type tool. It's down here. And it has my settings from before. And this font right here, I got it from fonts.adobe.com. You can check that mission out on the quick tips map. And I'm just going to click out here on the center. And because I have centered picked when I type, hit the caps lock key, and type M-A-K-E-A, and not, I don't have the caps lock key. Now I do. And then not a space. I'm just going to hit return. Okay, and get the move tool. I can position this where I want it and say, great, now we have a text layer here. The color, by default, it's black. Let's go back. We don't have to go to the text tool. We can double click on this to select our text. And what color do we want? Now, like I said, it was black by default. We can pick a color that's in here that's made of, so our brown doesn't clash. And we can pick, just come down to the dark areas, and this isn't some strange brown that we got. It actually comes from the same color family right here that we get from the color picker, which is a cool little trick to do. But I also want this background to be a little warmer. Let's go to adjustments and let's put hue and saturation on here and then click colorize. This button, oh, I have caps lock on, this button right here. And let's pick an orange, or pick a, there we go, play with the saturation. How dark do we want it? And we kind of warm this up. And I would play around with this some more and, make it a little more interesting. But this is, we're rushed for time here. And then I'm going to add a new layer. And I've already shown you a bunch of different times, different ways to add layers. And I'm going to fill this with 50% gray because I do want to use that trick where we change this to overlay. If you haven't done the dodge and burn layer mission, you probably want to do that, where I go into far more details and I get the brush tool, make sure I have the default colors and my opacity set pretty low. And I want to get a soft brush around that size. And I just want to darken the edge of this sign and maybe throw a little bit more on there just to, make this a little more varied, a little more interesting. And now when we save this, Command S, it saves this file, and then Command W to close it. Look, our smart object updated, and it's a little grotesque and it doesn't really fit in, but we're going to handle that when we make a new smart object from an everything layer, take it into Camera Raw and play with all the settings, and we'll make this fit better. But there's our Make a Playlist smart object with all the layers intact, and you now know how to work with a goofy smart object which didn't have multiple layers, and you're on your way to being able to use any mock-up in the world to do cool things. They are wonderful digital assets and a great boon and time saver for designers.